Morning, Daily Rip crew. How's the chat doing this morning? Happy FAFO Friday, everybody. If it's FAFO Friday, you know we got something planned special for y'all. Very fun show this morning. We got Michael Nauss. How we doing?
Doing fantastic. Yourself?
I'm doing well. We got the market already moving pretty good this morning. We had non-farm payroll data come out. We had unemployment data come out. So things are dropping pretty heavy right now, looking a little nasty. I don't know how we feeling about this data coming out right now, Michael.
As a technician, right, I'm more focused on the market's reaction to whatever it is, and
Absolutely.
it's not doing well. And it's not just the equity markets, right? We're seeing a reaction from Bitcoin, giving back some of its gains. A lot of red on my screen. So whatever they're saying, unless JPOW is coming in to save us later, it's looking pretty red out there for sure.
Yeah, gonna be an interesting morning. I'm kind of honestly looking for a bounce back this morning. We'll see. We'll see if we just open up and keep selling through these daily levels. We got some daily lows to watch out for that we're coming into. So
Hmm.
I'm seeing if it's we see a little bit of a fake out of those lows or not this morning. Something to watch out for. So let's hop into the daily rip and kind of recap what happened over what was it, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Yeah, here's the heat map. Pretty green for the most part, but some of the big tech names we know, like Google, Meta, not doing so well there. So, anything really stand out to you from here, Michael?
No, when you see, especially right, focusing on the bigger boxes, we know the SPY is governed by those huge guys. Seeing right, Microsoft up, Meta down, Amazon flat, like it just seems like it's a bit of a mixed bag, and often that kind of uncertainty in the market can be a bit of a troubling sign, right? If they don't know which way to go, right, either flush us and make a red day if it's going to be red or pop it green. But looking at that, it kind of looks like a Christmas tree, right? It's a bit of
Yeah,
everything.
100%. Yeah, I agree. So we'll see what it's gonna look like today. But moving on, Jensen Huang cast doubt on the quantum computing. So we saw quantum stocks pull back like massively at the beginning of the week. 50% decrease. It's ridiculous, right? So if you're holding any quantum stocks, obviously you felt a little bit of a hit there. His comments echo the findings of Boston Consulting Group, the management consultancy firm that suggested the quantum computing industry will grow through three phases, achieving full-scale fault tolerance likely after 2040. Quantum computing stocks like D-Wave Quantum, which you guys know we've been bringing up that ticker pretty frequently. Quantum Computing Incorporated, IONQ, Rigetti Computing, was that Arquit Quantum, and others all declined significantly today, with many posting losses in the 30 to 50% range. So just a nasty day for quantum overall. Is there anything that really stood out to you, Michael, on that day? I mean, obviously things were just heavy red.
Yeah, well, and quantum I think is a good kind of microcosm for speculative, right? These guys don't have anything yet. They're not making any money. They don't have anything to sell. It's all research and development at this point. So, uh, if you start to see those things rocket back up, I think it's actually a pretty good sign for the overall market. It shows a bit of animal spirits and that kind of thing is back. But for the people who I know, a lot of people got mad at the Nvidia CEO for saying that and kind of ruining their trade. But if you got to look at it, if your entire sector can get cut in half by one guy saying one offhanded comment, then you have to know what you're in is a pretty speculative bet.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. Yeah, if one person can say that and just wipe out like half of the market, yeah, it's a little wild. So,
Exactly.
you guys can see to the stock twits kind of they did a little poll on Jensen Huang, says useful quantum computers are years away. What's your take on quantum stocks? The majority of people thought it was a bullish long term, just a dip. So interesting there. We'll see if the stock twits community is right there.
Hmm.
But moving on, we got Russell two or oh we, okay, we're on Russell. Or no, we're on Nasdaq. Okay, I was just we were skipping Nasdaq bouncing off key support. So this is what I was talking about this morning.
Yeah.
You see, we're at these daily lows, right? I'm interested to see if we kind of fake out these lows. We've seen that already with NQ there. We see we broke below those previous lows and retraced. If you look at ES at those same areas, we were actually making a higher low. So a little bit of divergence there. I'm interested to see if we kind of do the same thing at these lows, or if
Hmm.
we could open up and sell off heavy with the data that came out this morning. So I'm kind of just waiting to see what happens there. I don't know. What's your take kind of on the chart here, Michael?
No, 100% with you there. It's not everything seems to be hanging on the edge,
Yeah.
from crypto to equities to right 580 on the SPY, I think is the big number. And yeah, we're all just watching that number. And it's one of those moments where sitting back and just watching and waiting, and then if you're right, if we undercut it and start to rally, that's probably going to be a good trade. If we break through and start to sell, it's probably also going to be a good trade. But these are the moments where I think every technician in the world's on the edge of their seat just waiting for the support to do something.
That's why too. I think today is pretty important. I mean, unless we
Yeah.
just open up and go completely sideways, if we open up and get that fake out move, or open up and just get that heavy distribution downside, either way, it's an important day, and I think there's going to be some good opportunity today for the day traders. So
Yeah, absolutely.
something to watch out for. Should be a good Friday.
Yeah.
But moving on from that, Russell 2000 holders. Interesting chart here. We're right at those all-time highs there. I don't know. Rejecting kind of that high there. So it seems like every time, I mean, the Russell tries to go, it seems like, oh, it's going to go this time. It's going to go this time, right? You hear all the small cap guys talking about it, and it just never seems to want to really get that traction and break out. And I don't know, Michael, maybe you have a different take on this, but at the end of the day, if it's all combined of small cap companies, is it really ever going to get that traction that it needs, right? Because if the companies are growing, right, and they're getting better and better, well, they're going to turn into large cap companies and eventually join, hopefully, the S&P 500, right? So with that mindset, I just feel like there's never going to be that real traction that the Russell needs to get going. But maybe I'm wrong. I'm just interested on your take there.
No, that's right. You keep kicking out your best players, right? So SMCI, a perfect example before all the DOJ stuff, right? It skipped mid caps and went right from small caps right to large cap, and right kicked out its biggest player. The other thing too is the whole IPO thing, right? Companies used to IPO small and then grow. Now they IPO huge and they're out of the 2000 already. So it can be a good sentiment gauge for some of these more speculative plays, but because there's 2000 names in it, it's so split up that I don't think it matters anyway. And yeah, like you said, you're just kicking out your best players every time they get good.
That's the thing. Yeah. So I guess something to think about there, especially, if you're constantly investing in something like this. But
Yeah,
sometimes a great
MDY
trading
is a
vehicle.
good right. So just for those who want something small cap related to skip, is MDY is your mid caps, and then the other thing that I think people need to focus too with this is it's like inflation, right? So small caps under 2 billion. Well, it's been like that way since the 1980s. They said 2 billion is a small cap, but right, what's 2 billion now, right? It should almost be inflation adjusted, where they keep raising what they consider
Hmm.
a small cap, but it's been that way for like 40 years.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. They should definitely adjust that as things grow. But
Yeah.
yeah, moving on. Let's see. We got AMD on the edge. We've talked about AMD pretty frequently on the show here, but obviously just having a tough time. I actually kicked AMD to the curb in my long term a little bit ago. Still took profit on it, not as much as I once had at those all time highs, of course. But I knew that from the beginning. I was gonna have to make that decision, right? With I invested in both Nvidia, AMD, and I was trying to hold out for as long as I could on AMD, but it
Yeah.
got to the point where I was over it, and at the end of the day, the narrative for AMD versus Nvidia and its other competitors, I'm not willing to own it anymore. So, but kind of holding on the edge, like we were talking about, Michael. This
Yeah.
chart's a little nasty here.
Everything's like that. That's a good. Yeah, I see what the person drew there, the Davy Dave, with an anchored VWAP, right? It's basically saying if you started buying AMD from the low, that's the price right there that the average market participants in. I know you guys have Brian Shannon on, so you probably hear that yelled at you a lot, but yeah, so it's a huge level. If we lose that, we're probably also losing the 90,000 on Bitcoin. We're losing the 580 on the SPY, right? So all of these things are going to be pretty correlated based off what happens in the next few days, I think, in the market.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't really think the event with Jensen helped at all too much. And then the next day, everything just sold off. Actually, that was a nasty move. So,
Well, like
did you
what
have any thoughts from that? That was an interesting event.
it was It was weird. I always these
It's
billionaire
weird.
CEOs trying to like, I don't know, be hip or cool or whatever. And it's like the part of the problem is what more does he have to say at this point? Like they expect this guy to come out and like unveil, here's a new AI chip that we built entirely in secret without you guys knowing about. And it's like the stock is so covered at this point that any move he makes, they're absolutely going to know a huge amount of time. So I don't know why we keep being super excited about this. Kind of like Tesla,
I
right?
know.
Nobody's shocked when Tesla release a new car or whatever because everybody's watching everything that every factory is doing all the time. And it's, yeah, it's going to be the same going forward with a lot of these chip names, right?
Speaking of, you see the
Yeah,
new Model Y?
I did. I
Do you
like
like
it.
it?
I
Yeah,
like it.
I like it
I'm
too.
not a Cybertruck guy. Like I don't. I think that's stupid. We got a couple
I'm
even
not
up here
really
in
either,
Canada.
but you know.
But
Yeah.
no, I like that he brought over the light bar in the front. I think the front looks pretty nice. But I don't know. It's interesting. They're I don't know. My wife keeps saying they all look like turtles. And she hates the look of them. But
The Model Ys definitely have that bubble look, but
yeah.
it's grown on me over time. But yeah, funny stuff there. Moving on from the AMD chart. What do we got on here next? Oh, we don't have anything. Michael, I
Uh,
know you had some charts actually though that you wanted to share.
I always
And
have tons of
going
charts.
into the market open.
Yeah.
So let's bring those up. Yeah.
Let's do a share. Do a window.
Oh
Let's
gosh,
start.
Tesla.
Let's start with this guy. So
What do we got?
this is a heat map, and this is what I always look at first thing in the morning. Heat map of everything that I watch, all the major ETFs, and I try to gather kind of themes from this and try to figure out what's going on. So funny enough, PSIL, so that's a psychedelic ETF, that has been on fire. I think it's up like 20% year to date. The psychedelic sector, so that's one that I've been talking about watching. UNG, full disclosure, I own a bunch of this. I'll always say that when I'm talking about it, but that's doing well. But you can kind of get a pretty general theme, right? So DBC's commodities, USO is obviously oil, OIH, OXP, all the gold. A lot of these are commodity type ETFs. And then down here we see ARC being one of the worst, semiconductors being down as well. So I've been noticing this a lot almost the entire year where we're getting a bit of a shift out of a lot of these semis and these technology stocks and into more energy and Jim Rogers always said stuff that if you drop on your foot, it hurts, right? So copper's in here and gold and silver. So that gets really interesting to me, where if we do see this kind of flip in the market where people are less interested in buying the actual guy who makes the picks and shovels with Nvidia, maybe the whole next AI play is how do we power these things, right? There's been a lot of talk about that with nuclear. There's been a lot of talk about that with utilities, but maybe people are just saying, hey, oil and gas, right? Maybe it's a Trump thing, right? Saying that he'll just allow more of that. And then yeah, PSIL is always interesting to me, where it's just I've looked into some of these psychedelic names. Obviously, none of this is they have nothing to sell yet, right? Because they can't legally. But a lot of this is they're not trying to do what the marijuana names did, which absolutely kind of tanked that index and made it so that these guys are just commoditized to death, right?
Well, yeah,
So
and for a minute, MSOS was actually doing really good,
yeah,
beginning of last year.
and then just completely fell apart. So
Yeah.
I think the difference is that they're trying to be MSOS is trying to just sell marijuana everywhere. And I'm from Canada, right? So it's been legal here for ages. And I've talked to people who own these businesses. There's no margin, right? You can literally grow it in your backyard. There's no margin on this. But the psychedelic sectors, they're trying to be more drug replacements, right? The idea is that they can cure anxiety, depression, some of the autism trials, all this kind of stuff. So this is more of like a pharmaceutical play as opposed to is this thing going to be legalized play. So it's kind of interesting, but I don't know again if it's part of your guys' politics, the reason that this is up so much year to date, but the amount of times I've seen it on this heat map just showing as the strongest sector out there has been pretty crazy considering it's all of the last couple of years it's been more in this red section than the green.
Yeah, it's something to watch out for. I don't know who mentioned it. It might have been you on one of the Wolf Spaces that actually mentioned it. Maybe I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
somebody threw that ticker towards my way a little while ago, and I was watching. I was like, wow, this is gaining some traction, actually starting to like look kind of good here. So
Yeah.
interesting stuff. Yeah, I think it's kind of a fun story to follow, and I think you're right. The way they're kind of taking the more like I guess, medical route versus like, hey, everybody use this recreationally and like get
Yeah,
high. You know what I
have a
mean?
good
Like
time.
instead, they're like, no, we're gonna try and like actually, treat something with this and like not just put it in the hands of anybody. So
Yeah, and
I think
that's
that's cool.
right.
Yeah,
A little bit less fun for people who just want it legal. But from
of
a
course.
business point of view, if I can build something and I have to go through FDA trials and I have, that kind of approval and everything, that creates a little bit of a moat around me as a business to say, well, they're not just selling it at the 7-Eleven where you can just go buy some LSD now. It's like this is a thing that I have proven and I've gone through all that. So, again, a huge speculative play. Jets is another one I wanted to talk about because this is usually, like, they say the best way to become a millionaire is to be a billionaire and invest in airlines. But this chart, all the way from August 2020, has just been insane.
Well, it's up a
And
lot this morning too.
yeah, and then it's
Jeez.
breaking out, and not only up a lot, but it's breaking out of this nice base. Like it's been fighting this level all the way since the beginning of the year, and then popping now. I've booked a couple of flights to NYC. I'm going there at the end of the month. They didn't seem overly inflated, didn't seem super busy to try to do. I don't know what the news is here, but yeah, it's popping and popping at the same time that we have oil going, which is kind of confused because usually these things might be inversely correlated, right? If oil is expensive, then it's going to cost more to soup up your jets. I was talking to a couple of my traders buddies to try to figure out what they were going on. The only answer I got, I has to have been a joke, but he was saying it's an Ozempic play. That if people lose a lot of weight, then the planes are easier to fly, which
Oh
is,
my gosh.
I'm like, there's no way, there's no
That's
shot.
hilarious. There's no way that's the correlation, but
But yeah, and oil, like look at this break. This oil's been getting tight, 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 consolidating
yeah.
for like this. We're way back in 2022.
Yeah.
Hasn't been able to get going. Nice breakout. So this is one thing that I'm really watching today. Really, really strong candle out of this zone. So if it can get going, again, it would suck for inflation because what we're seeing a lot here is things that would cost everybody more money, right? So
Mhm.
if natural gas is popping 7% a day, if oil is popping, if DBC, which is just an overall commodity ETF, so it's got wheat and corn and all that kind of stuff in it, if that's popping, then really all of these charts are telling us is inflation back, right? Does that mean if inflation starts to rear its head again, no more rate cuts or more rate hikes? Like what, that could be, that to me would be the death nail for the markets. If J Powell came out and said, no, we're done cutting rates, inflation's going a bit too crazy, look out
Yeah.
below.
That's something to watch out for sure. Just real quick for the chat, if you guys want any tickers for us to check out, just throw them in the chat. We'll get to them by the end of the show, so feel free. Just throwing
Yeah,
that out there for everybody.
absolutely.
But yeah, oil's interesting, man. I would trade the futures here and there, but it's been so choppy and back and forth lately. I just haven't
Yeah.
gotten myself to be able to trade it. But obviously lately, getting that breakout starting to get going, and with the new president in town, could be interesting, like you're saying. So
Which, and this is why I love to study charts because I would have assumed it'd be the other way. So if Trump, I'm assuming, and I think one of his quotes was "drill, baby, drill." Well, if
hmm
you're producing more oil, that would be bad for the oil price.
yeah,
Again,
that's
one would
that's
assume.
what my take would have been as well. But I guess not right now, huh?
Well, and it's funny too, like under Biden, which I assume is more like green energy, we had, the TAN, the solar ETF, just tanking all year. So
hmm
again, it does show that a lot of these narratives, it's good to remove just because, hey, let's ignore the narratives and just focus on what the price action's doing. Regardless of why it's happening, we do have oil breaking out. We have natural gas. This has been something, again, I'm very involved in natural gas, so full disclosure. But just from a technical point of view, there's a basic 200-day moving average. I don't think there's anything magic with any moving averages, but you can just see I've never seen something respect a moving average this well, right? It's support here, and every time it came up over the last like 2 years, hits the moving average, falls apart, hits the moving average, falls apart, and this pattern just continued and continued until I think it was like last Friday, right, where the opposite happened. It broke through, it came back to touch it from the other side, and now it's holding. So my play has been I've been buying natural gas down here, and as long as we kind of hold above that, that could remain the play. It's one of those right? No, I'm not expecting it to go back to $150 a share UNG, but even if we got back somewhere in this range right here, that's like 20, $30 a share, and
Yeah.
it's a it's a great
That's
little get
solid.
if I can
Well, you're
get it.
looking for kind of out of the ordinary, and I think that's key when you're trying to catch a bit of a reversal in a trend, right? You've seen this thing continue to just, make lower highs off of that moving average. So, what would
Yeah.
be out of the ordinary in this situation? Well, it would be out of the ordinary if we saw this just break out and rip over it and get a break and retest, and that's exactly what you're seeing here, right? So, I
Yeah.
think that's key. Just kind of keeping an eye out for the, hey, that's not normally what we do here. Maybe things are starting to flip around, and you can see. I mean, we've been trying to make a nice base. It
Hmm.
went from making those sharp lower lows to now, it still was making lower lows, but it's a more accumulation type of style of
Yep.
trading, right? And more sideways. And now we're starting to get those higher highs and higher lows. The market structure is shifting here a bit now. How long it shifts for, right? That's where it's tough. It's like, okay, it could shift on the lower time frames for a bit, but you look at it on a weekly time frame, we break into weekly resistance and then it's over, right? So
Yeah.
time frame is super relative here for sure. But yeah, I think solid base going. We've seen some good stuff with Natty Gas lately, so
Well, yeah,
something to watch out for.
and they do call it the Widowmaker for a reason,
Oh
right?
yeah,
I
I've only
always have to
lost
say
money on
that one.
Natty Gas. I haven't traded it much, but the
Yeah.
times I did, I only lost money. So
There's horror stories. You can go always go onto YouTube and just type in it's like hedge fund manager crying or something. And there's like a video of this guy just he's like talking. I don't know why he made a video, but talking to his clients, and they've been doing. I think he was selling calls on natural gas, and he made like an entire career on it, and he was doing amazingly. He had this whole hedge fund. Everything was fantastic. And then one of those times, natural gas did what it did and just rocketed. And those naked calls just completely blew up the entire fund in just like one night. So I always just use that as a warning for if you're going to trade this, I trade it more like a biotech stock than I do a commodity where, you know, I'm trying to get out if I'm wrong at 15, but I got to expect that I could get 13, I could get 12 if something crazy happens overnight because it's just kind of the way she works with this one.
yeah, for sure. Somebody from the chat requested PBR that we could
Yeah,
look at.
so I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. It's I know it's a Brazilian stock. Um, I just don't see a whole lot here, right? We've got this kind of down channel going on, but it's really, really range bound right now. So yeah, you could say, hey, we bounced off the low end of the channel. Maybe we're going to go to the high end here. But when I look at this, especially you zoom out on this name, this hasn't done anything
Yeah,
since, right, we're talking 2022 all the way back to 2019. It's still at the same price. So I don't know if they pay a good dividend or something, maybe. But for me, it's just one of those things. It's not doing anything. You notice that a lot of the things that I focus on, I'm looking at here at the top of my list. These are all the ETFs that are up the most on the day, and then all the ETFs that are down the most on the day, because I want someone to care about the stock that I'm trading. I want someone who is super interesting. So, and I just saw in chat there, speaking of something that is most likely moving,
oh yeah.
is this GUR. This thing is
Have you been watching this lately? It's pretty crazy.
I have. It's absolutely insane. I don't even know what they do, to
Have you
be
played
blunt.
it at all?
No, I don't
Yeah,
have
I
the
haven't
guts to
either.
use
I
it.
don't have any interest to, but it's cool to watch.
What I have any idea what they do? Like what's the story
What was
here?
it? We looked at it before. I forget. Let me look at the Gorilla Technology engages in the provision of video intelligence, Internet of Things, security, edge, AI, data analytics, and operational technology security solutions and services in Asia Pacific.
Okay, so they went to Chat GPT and they said like write me a description for a
Yeah,
company
that's exactly what they did.
that
Yes, yes. Shy
synergies
talked
and
about this a little bit. I think fundamentals for long term are definitely shaky, but just
well,
for the time being, it's been a ripper.
it's China, isn't it? So then
Yeah, Asia Pacific. Yeah, basically, yeah,
yeah,
that
well,
area.
yeah, so anytime I see you know, no offense, is just that I just can't trust the data that's being given as much, right? If it's not domiciled somewhere, that I can track that. But right when it comes to this guy, right, I notice all of the history of right spike crazy, right? So here's a spike from 24 up to 128, so insane move, and then falls all the way back down. These kind of show me that these have been a lot, probably a bunch of reverse splits. I don't know for sure. I think TradingView will tell me. Looks
Yeah,
like a
sure.
name that's probably reverse split a couple times. Yeah, so here's one, 1 for 10. Anytime you see a name that has to reverse split, it basically means that they have no way to get their stock over the dollar to stay listed on the Nasdaq. That's generally
That's
not what
not a good thing.
you want to see. So this just looks to me like it's potentially one of these momentum moves that it's had many times before, right? So this would push from 15 up to 83 and then falls all the way back down. And then right, push to $4 up to 12 and then falls all the way back down. Is this time different? Maybe. Would I take that bet? Definitely not. I certainly wouldn't short it because it has a history of 10xing. But at the same time, I'm not going to look to buy this guy because it 10x's. Now, why? I've got some fundamentals over on my other screen over here. 8 million shares in the float. It's already done 175,000 shares today. So this is one of those things that it's a micro float. So what happens is if you only have 8, 10 million shares in the float, any amount of a Discord that talks about it, any amount of hype from a guy, big guy on Twitter or something, you can literally trade the entire company over and over again. Like the whole company is only worth $80 million. So it'd be nothing for a group of traders to kind of push and bully this thing around. So I think this is a momentum play, right? If you're in it for whatever story reason that I don't know or understand, that's fine. But I look at this as you play the momentum when it happens on this name and then get out on the other side. At least that's what's worked in history, right? Is make hay while the sun shines, but then make sure you're not the last one at the party when this thing decides to go the other way.
Yeah, get your money and get out, essentially.
Yeah.
I was curious if you had any takes on Netflix because this is a name that we saw. I mean, just fly all year, with plenty of positive catalysts,
Yeah.
even recently, but kind of pulling back now, getting into the range. We're into a new year. I'm kind of curious on your thoughts here. We're just really range bound here on this daily.
Yeah, these to me are the pullbacks that I like, right? The
Mm-hmm.
the nice. So if we compare this to, we can go back to where was it? Yeah, the pullbacks that happened here during 2021, right? These are the pullbacks that scare me because there's
Yeah.
just a lot of selling. There's a lot of emotion behind this. There's probably some fundamental reason that people are running for the door. When I look at pullbacks like these, I actually get interested in potentially. These are the ones that you can look to buy a dip, I think, if things are going well. Because if you look at it, yes, it's down like 10, 20 days in a row, but they're just little tiny, there's no emotion here. There's nobody who's saying, I need to sell Netflix absolutely because I think this company is going to zero. This looks to me like maybe some profit taking, right? Maybe there was a big fund who was involved somewhere down here, and then the new year came and they said, okay, now that we've pushed the tax a year away,
Yeah.
let's start to take some profit. So these nice orderly pullbacks, there's no panic here, there's no fear. That gets really interesting to me because when these things occur, like here's another good example. Like this pullback was just nice and orderly. No one was really scared one way or the other. You had a little bit of a move around earnings, but nothing crazy. And then that got reversed very quickly. So no, I like that. I think the streaming numbers is obviously what you got to keep an eye on. They released, I never watched the first one, but that Squid Game 2 is out.
Yeah.
So I think you can focus on little things like that when it comes to trading Netflix. I know a lot of people will track like how many people watched the sequel to this versus the original, and because that's really what sets them apart is that original content and how well that ends up doing for them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I will say some of my favorite shows or movies have been the Netflix originals, so I think they do a really good job and definitely something to watch out for, especially if you like deep dive in the data.
Yeah.
That's one that's good to deep dive on
I
for sure.
I
So
know the wife, they put out tons of reality shows and she's big on to the right attractive people in bikinis, they hate each other and then love each other again or whatever it is.
the
But
drama TV shows.
yeah, the I guess the beauty of that content from a business point of view is it costs nothing to get. You get a bunch of people who really want to be big on Instagram. And you go, come on over. We're gonna feed you beer and point cameras at your face, and
Well,
that's all
people
it
love to
costs.
watch people, right, Michael? I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
I feel
look
like
at us.
TikTok is, yeah, right. I mean, TikTok has proved that. I've been scrolling on TikTok before on like a live stream, and there's literally thousands of people watching somebody watching TV. doing nothing. I'm like,
Yeah.
people just want to watch people. You know what I mean? And especially on a reality TV show, you know, people love drama. So it makes sense that it does well and
Yeah.
makes a lot of money too.
Well, and
We got this market opening right now, so just beware of that bell coming.
yeah. So I am watching like a hawk on the open. Right, we're well above that now. So I should have said this earlier, but these are always these charts include pre-market action that I have here. So this is today's candle so far. What's happened? I think 580 on the SPY. I think that's everything. Let's remove some of this junk.
Yeah, it's a big spot. Everybody's watching. I feel like at 580.
Right, we highlight yeah, these recent lows in this zone right here. Right, we bounced. This is a 30-minute chart now, right? So we bounced on the 30th, right? We bounced on the 31st, we bounced on the 2nd, and we bounced there again on the 8th. So massive, massive level that we need to hold, and we need to hold on a closing basis. So I don't care if we spike down a little bit, bounce. I don't think we do any. I don't care if we're out. You know, if we tick to 1 or 579, right? I want to see on like a closing basis. The reason for that I always get asked, so I'll just answer, is that, you know, there's an old saying in the market that amateurs open the market, professionals close it. It's not to me be disparaging to anyone. It's just saying that the big guys, the giant institutions out there, they're not scalping the open, right? They're not buying and selling, right? They're waiting. Okay, all you crazy day traders, get out of my way. And then if I like a stock, I'm going to start accumulating it after that opening print. So that's what I really want to see. So push down, and then this was based off that number at 930. Tried to bounce a little bit. So far, it looks like that bounce may be failing. When I go to look at this, because this update's live, still mostly red with a little bit of green going on here. So we'll see which of these names, if this right gets more red as time goes on, or gets more green. But I'm looking at some of the scans and the systems I have, and
You notice gold? It's just nonstop flying right now.
yeah, and that's not really what you want to see.
Yeah, I know. Something
Okay.
to watch out for, especially because like gold. I forget what day it was. It wasn't too long ago, but we were bouncing back from that dip. That's when it was November 25th, around there. We just got that nasty sell off, and then since then it's been just kind of back and forth, and I don't know. It needs to make up its mind on what it wants to do here. I just think it's a lot. Nobody cares about it as much when there's risk on with Bitcoin, you know what I mean, and everything
Yeah.
like that. So I feel like a lot of people just kind of kicked gold to the curb for a while Bitcoin was hitting 100K, you know, and now everybody's watching that, and I don't know, but maybe gold's coming back here.
Well, and I think that's the perfect synopsis of it, right? Is that um, it is the risk off asset. It is the place that people go when they're worried about everything else happening. Right? You don't buy gold when you're like everything is hunky dinky dory, and you
Yeah.
know semiconductors are going to double, and magic money machine or magic internet money is going to double, and all this kind of stuff. That PSIL that was doing well on the open is just down now, right? So again, this is a pretty illiquid ETF just because these are newer securities, but yeah, so that's kind of selling. I'm looking at some of the things that are holding. Natural gas still doing well. Oil, DBC. So it definitely seems to be one of these that these commodities are holding well, and then the semiconductors and the fun stuff is selling off. Which again, if you're very very you know into the kind of risk that you want to play the fun stuff, it's just not exactly what you want to see, right? You don't want to see this action. You want to see it the other way around, where maybe oil and gold are selling off, and then you have semiconductors ripping, right? And we're just not seeing that. Bitcoin's holding, so that's good, but down a little bit from where it was. Yeah, earlier today had this
Have you
nice
seen
grind.
BTGD? It has 100% exposure to Bitcoin and gold. Super
Ye-
interesting.
Yes, Gav was talking about this. So they do that with some sort of leverage. They
Yeah,
must. I mean,
we've been keeping an eye on this. I just think it's super interesting because like you see, you know, a lot of Bitcoin and gold guys kind of bashing heads. So to see an ETF that has exposure to both there, it's just funny to me. I love keeping an eye on it. I just think it's cool.
I
I was
find
curious
that
if you've seen that.
yeah, people that get dogmatic about an investment one way or another, it just I feel bad because it always ends the same way, right?
Yeah.
Just think of the meme stocks, right? There's
Oh
people out
gosh.
there who are still betting on Bed Bath and Beyond, making them millions.
Well, and the way I see it is, Michael. I mean, I get it. People want to beat the hedge funds and everything, but I mean, you got to sit back and like ask yourself, do you really think that's gonna happen? Right? I mean, these guys got more money, more power, more people, a longer term plan. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I just look at everybody that's like, oh, we're gonna beat the hedge funds, and it's like, man, that's probably not gonna happen, right? And it's like it may happen for a short period of time, but overall, like at the end of the day, it's not gonna play out the way you think. So
Well,
I
and
feel like
the
it's just make your money and get out, right? Don't
well,
stay too married to it.
if you really wanted to beat Citadel, the way you would do it is dollar cost average into the S&P 500
Yeah.
and not actively trade, right? Because
Yeah.
that would be the thing that would hurt them the most. But no, I just again, as someone who worked in the hedge fund space for 10 years, I can tell you these guys are not friends with each other either, right? If you're invested with that guy's hedge fund down the road from me in New York, you're not invested in mine. So I'm like, it's so bad that there's like corporate espionage where they'll send people over there to get hired to like leak data back and like all this stuff. So these guys are at war with each other, and then you're like you a lot of the retail looks at them as kind of one unit that they're fighting against. I'm like these guys are fighting each other, right?
Yeah.
You know, if you really want to get at the hedge funds, you should make friends with some of them because
Yeah.
right they'll beat each other up for you. Just tell one what the other one's doing, kind of thing. But yeah, when it comes to looking at, I'm seeing some names that had some interesting days yesterday starting to bounce. So this AMPX just came through my scanner. The idea is right, it had a pretty red day on Wednesday, but starting to recover. So some of these names that are looking for recoveries are getting a little bit interesting. Where yeah, we're seeing some bounce going on, right? So the SPY is still holding this zone, although it's down a little bit from the open. Way worse when these numbers came out. So I think it becomes really easy just to watch these lows for when the number was announced, because this is where a lot of those algos kick in, right? As soon as the numbers released, there's like an AI bot that pulls out the key language and trades based off it. And if they're underwater and this thing starts to reverse, then you know that that's a short-term kind of trade that needs to unwind. So, right, that's kind of 582 on the SPY, on the Qs. What are we sitting at? 508, right? So we're not, you know, we're above these areas, not insanely, but we are having this kind of this look where, hey, if we hold these zones, then we could get that bounce back that you're talking about before. If we don't, then it could be this kind of flush Friday. So
Yep.
we'll see. Right? I think we're at
That's
it.
where I'm being patient right now. I want to see what happens, you know, either at these data lows, because obviously when big data comes out at 5:30, I always mark the high and lows of that because those are
Yeah.
potential big spots for the morning. But if we can, you know, if we get through these lows selling, I'm watching that next daily low on NQ SPY, all of it there. So,
Yeah.
and if we're really drilling through that, right, this market can definitely get ugly. But I like to think that there's going to be some buyers, some manipulation happening down at these lows, but maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. I'm staying patient right now, not entering anything, just kicking back. I'm not going to. It's Friday, right? I already had a great week too. So I'm not personally trying to press the gas pedal too hard unless I see something really clear,
Yeah.
which I'm sure we'll get today, but got to wait for it. I don't see too much yet. So,
Yeah. One of my favorite or trading mentors was always just call it "Don't f up Friday." That was
yeah.
the whole idea. Is just right. You've got you're going into the weekend. Last thing you want to do on Friday is really, you know, either whether you're swing trading, make like really dramatic decisions, whether you're day trading, you know, really risk a lot, or you know, try to make a bunch. You know, lock in what you did for most of the week, and then just kind of chill, right? And just kind
Yeah.
of keep an eye out because the closing price on Friday can be very, very important when it comes to, different systems and algorithms that run on the market. But doesn't mean you have to participate. You can just kind of watch, right? Uh, Tilray, I think, actually.
They reported this morning, yeah?
Yeah, they
Or
did. I want to
yeah.
check on them. Oh, nope. That's not what you want to see after reporting. No.
Uh-oh.
So MSOS must be, yeah. So this is threatening new lows again. A good lesson for people out there about sticking with trends, right? Trying not to fight trends, right? Because this, all you have to do is zoom out for any length of time on MSOS, and you can pretty obviously see the trend. And I know people, I'm sure you do too, have been holding this entire time, just saying, "Oh, just wait till this legalization or that legalization or whatever," from like $100 down to
Yeah.
3. So I'm just looking who else reported.
DAL, right, Delta?
Yeah, DAL. So, oh, that was going on. What was going on with the
Oh, they're
Jets
they're up.
earlier?
They're looking real good. Yeah, because you
Yeah.
talked about Jets as well.
So yeah, this Jets, just this ETF has been insane. Again, for something that it's such a hard business. The just airlines, it's just a hard business in general, right? You've super capital intensive. You're only making so much per passenger, right? You can't really. It's competitive market.
It's
So to
just so
see
much
this
about
break,
reputation as well. I mean, you look at Spirit, right? It's just everybody and their mother hates Spirit, and for good reason. It's not great, right? And so I think reputation, just simply, taking care of your customers in that space and just making sure everybody's like well compensated is important.
yeah, so we're getting
It's not easy to do.
this TMDX we're seeing from the
Yeah,
chat here
Shy
again.
loves transmedics. Curious, what are your thoughts on transmedics? Shy's really into transmedics right now.
Well, corn getting crushed on a short report is the
Yeah.
note, so that's not ideal. Right, hard downtrend, 20 or $200 down to 65. Not a dip that I would look to buy, but overall, if you zoom out, still been strong. But yeah, last time it did this sell off, right? From in the 2023 went from 100 down to $30. So it looks like same kind of magnitude move. I like to look at kind of the history of names and when they get crushed, how much they get crushed, and this one's interesting. Now, sometimes these sell-off days can actually be really good buying opportunities, and I think what you look for is you look for people not to care, right? If I do all this diligence on a Muddy Waters report or whatever, and I release it, and it ticks down a little bit, and then it starts to rip, then sometimes those can be really wicked moves. But most of the time, when the short reports hit, that's lights out, at least for the day. It looks like that one's going on as well. So if you were a short term trader, this could be an interesting one because at least you're going to get that volatility today, right? You're going to get this thing is going to move pretty crazily.
100%. This market's testing these data lows right now. Not really doing too much. Just kind of range bound here. I'm waiting to see any real action.
Yeah, down and then bounce again. Yeah, interesting. I'm just really shocked that Bitcoin is up as much as it is. That it's outperforming the S&P 500 because usually, right, you look at Bitcoin, you look at the Qs, they're in lockstep, right? They're a
Hmm.
nice technology type sentiment gauge, but we've got the Qs not doing great at all, like hanging out right near these lows, down on the day, and then we have Bitcoin that's actually holding up pretty well above these lows, and looks like it might be moving higher. So it's interesting that we're seeing this kind of divergence on that particular front. So I don't know. Again, you can't you can't think the world's coming to an end if people are buying magic internet money up
Yeah.
from 92,000 to
That's
94
another thing
today.
too. We have to remember where we came from. We're at 90. We're at 90,000, 94,000, right? I
Yep.
mean, we pumped from 70K. That's I know we were talking about it this morning, like, below 90K could get a little treacherous. And I totally agree. But like at the end of the day, right? Like any dip that comes As long as we're holding that initial spot that we broke out of, I think things are just fine here. You just got to
Yeah.
endure it, right? You just got to sit through it, which sucks sometimes, but I think it's worth it here.
Well, yeah, I think the Bitcoin play for me is pretty obvious, right? I just drew this box around the recent action. It's like as long as we're in this box, I don't really care.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
if we
Doesn't
get out of
matter.
this box to the upside or the downside, maybe one of those things becomes interesting to me. But what people forget about crypto is they all remember the spikes and the crashes that happens. Yeah, it goes up, 20% in a day, it goes down 20% in a day. That's all well and good, but then they forget that most of the time Bitcoin and crypto doesn't do anything. Right? You can take these boxes and you can just draw them around like massive swaths of crypto where for ages, right, nothing happens, like years even, where you can just take these boxes and just draw them. So I just think it's very important that if you're trading crypto, you understand that sometimes it's interesting, sometimes absolutely nothing is happening. And I think personally that this $100,000 was kind of so important that we could be in for one of these times where just nothing is going on. You could spend 6 months or a year where it's just chopping sideways the way it does, which sadly would be the way to frustrate and to hurt the most amount of people who are
It
betting for that kind of insane
it's
move one way
funny,
or
yeah.
another, right?
It's funny, yeah, because like you just said, the chop environment is that's actually the best for the big dogs because that's what's gonna push all these investors out, right? When
Hmm.
in all reality, if we're going sideways, that's overall that's exactly what you want to see, right? We just had a huge impulsive move up. I mean, we're going sideways and we could go sideways a lot longer. That's good, especially if you're looking for Bitcoin to be, you know, future of finance, quote unquote.
Yeah.
It's just not. That's what you want to see with something like this: impulsive moves up and sideways price action for a long time, holding the
Hmm.
value that you have, right? Not just constantly shooting up and oh, let's go get our Lambos. And I feel like that's what it's like turned into. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Let me get my Lambo instead of like this is exactly what you want with the crypto market. So, um, yeah, you're right. It's gonna push a lot of people out, unfortunately, because I think as long as you're seeing that high time frame consolidation, everything about that is healthy.
Well, and the entrance of ETFs and the
Yeah.
entrance of options on those ETFs. As soon as that happens, right? A lot of people think options and they think, speculative buying calls and buying puts. Most of the big guys who trade options out there, they're doing the selling, right? They're doing the premium collection, and they want the instrument to be volatile but not moving because that's how you're going to make the most amount of money when it comes to selling options and doing that premium collection. So if it's going to be the thing that's going to make the big dogs the most amount of money, it makes absolutely perfect sense to me that that's that kind of chop that's going to what's going to happen, right? Imagine selling a kind of 110,000 call and then selling 80,000 put, and then just raking that in over and over and over again. I think that's what you're going to see a lot of these guys doing because that right now is an insanely profitable trade until you get some sort of rip or crash in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it's funny. It's something we see like every day in the market, right? I mean, how many times I'm sure if you guys are in the chat, you've been in a position where it's choppy all day and you're kind of chip chopping around and then big move comes around and you think it's going to go in your favor and then that's the fake out and it just distributes the other way, right? And it's like that's what they're constantly doing on lower time frames, higher time frames all the time,
Hmm.
right? They're trying their best to screw you basically, right? And you gotta be able to be aware of that and watch out for it. And again, if you're investing in something, believe in it, right? And
Yeah.
you're seeing accumulation like that again after impulsive bullish moves up. I think everything about that is positive and don't let them push you out, in my opinion. But this
Yeah.
market
Right.
continued downside so far.
Well, and that's again, it's remarkable to me that yeah, we're pushing down the SPY, we're pushing down in the Qs, but yeah, Bitcoin's holding, which is just uncharacteristic. But yeah, now we are down below that low that we took out or that we had from that news event. It's a 5 minute candle, there's 2 minutes left. So generally, you want to see what the candle closing prices are. So if we can hold below there, then yeah, this might turn into a no fun day where right we continue to have this kind of bleed lower. But we take should we look at some of the quantum names?
Oh, I haven't even taken a look, but yeah.
Rigetti. See if any of these things are holding on. I'm just using what happens on this pullback as another sentiment check on the overall market, right? If we end up just bouncing, if the crazy people who are trading these things, they don't care that hey, it's going to be many years out, and these start to bounce pretty hard, then that's another good for me animal spirits type of check, right? Are the animal spirits kind of back in this market? So far, not seeing that, right? We're down another 12, 13% today on these guys. So another pretty wild move down. But hey, at least they're not at lows like the Qs. You could say that.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Q's getting really close to that daily low from a few days back. So
yeah,
keep an eyes close.
These wicks. So what's that? Kind of 505 ish. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that area is going to be a big one. Call it
It's the big
505,
spot.
506. Yeah.
I'm expecting some buyers to step in, but again, like that mindset could change really quick. It depends on what happens around that level, right? The level sure is important, but it doesn't give us any direction. We need to see the price action around that area.
Yeah. You'd have to imagine a stop run, right? You'd have to imagine they're gonna
absolutely
right. And what we mean by that for just newer people is that I to take off the tinfoil hat for a while. No, the market doesn't care about your stop, right? They don't care about my stop. They don't care about any individual
They
one.
don't even know
They can't
our
see
orders
them.
are actually there. But when I say that at the same time, Michael, like I'm sure you can agree with this, everybody's stops are very predictable. Right. If you know everybody's buying a double bottom at a psychological level, where are they going to put their stops at its psychological $500 level?
Yeah.
Probably 490, 485, 480. Yeah. And big dogs know this, right? It's simple.
And that's my point, because I do get a lot of emails and questions. Oh, they keep running my stops. They can see them. It's like, no, what's happening is you're putting your stop the same place that everyone else is putting their stop, like right below a candle's low, right above a candle's high. That's why I would be surprised, and I'm always surprised every day in the market, if we don't at least come and flush those, right, and push it down to this right below these two wicks, because there's probably a lot of stop losses right below those two wicks, and then we'll see what happens, right? Because the question is, do they use that flush as a buying opportunity, or do they, or is that it?
Because again, these guys can't fill their orders where we do, right? Me and Michael can just come in the market and press buy whenever we want, right? But like these guys, they literally can't do that. Their orders are so massive that they need people stopping out, losing money to fill their orders. Right. And that's why you guys will see me. I'm always waiting for those levels to be taken, because I'm trying to trade with those guys as much as possible. Right. I just need my slice of the pie. I don't need the whole move that they're looking to get. Right. But trying to execute kind of alongside with them if I'm seeing the things I need to see. Right. That's the key. And that's what I'm trying to do every day. Right. Because trading against them isn't very fun, as you may know.
No, they don't. They don't really know that we exist, and they don't really care about us. So it's kind of like, trying to fight a whale as like a guppy, right? You're just better to try to figure out which way he's moving and see if you can hop on his back for a little bit, right?
Exactly. Well, that's it for me, Michael. I don't know if you have any other charts or any other thoughts you wanna give to the audience. I think we're all to wrap up if ready.
Yeah, no, I think it's you pay attention to these lows right here on the Q. If we hold them, great, and if not, look out below, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. Well, everybody, trade safe. I appreciate the whole crew joining us every morning. We'll be back bright and early Monday morning. So enjoy the weekend. Trade safe today. Remember, follow your rules. Don't get a case of the fuckets. Okay, that's never good. Don't get a case of the fuckets. Follow that plan, right? If it's not clear, it's okay to not be trading. And you guys will see me. I take plenty of days where I'm like, market's not clear. I don't care what's happening. I don't care if we rip 100 points. I'm not doing nothing. So follow those rules. I appreciate the whole team. Make sure you guys are liking the stream and subscribing. And we'll see you guys next week. Have a great weekend.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks, Michael.
See ya.
Yes, sir.